Firstly, thank you, Mr. Greaves, for giving us some of your valuable time to jump on with us today. It really is appreciated. You got myself, Carl. Andy, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Right, Carl. Andy, Clifton lad. So local.
So,
right.
Just a box. That's what this was all about for us. Cool lads.
So we
love boxing, and we're just giving a bit of an opinion. So it's nice. It's really nice and good to have you on. Thanks, mate.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. So, Carl, I think the best place to start is how did you get into boxing? Rumour has it you're a bit of a Barry McGuigan fan.
Yeah, I was a big Barry McGuigan fan back in the day. It was a big inspiration to me growing up, watching him win the world title, and then obviously the Rocky films and obviously Barry McGuigan, as you do, and went down the local amateur boxing club at 9 years old. It was called Boulders ABC then on the Greaves Sports Centre, at the back of the field where the athletics track is. Unfortunately, I wasn't old enough. They let me train that night. Old Dick Daubney, but he said come back when you're 11. And the time I went back when I was 11, they'd moved premises to Elm Avenue. It was called RHP ABC then. Yeah, and then I had my first fight when I just turned 12, and the rest is history, as they say.
You have the bug straight away?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, between 9 and 11, when I couldn't go to the boxing club, I actually set my own little ring in the back garden with ropes and string, and used to get my mates round, and we all used to do some sparring and a bit of rumble and that. We had one glove each sometimes where we couldn't afford two gloves. So and then just always had the bug in it. I think it was just something was always installed in me, something that I was naturally gonna do. And I just loved it. I mean, I'm not from a boxing family or anything. I'm the only one who's ever boxed in the family. So, just something I always wanted to do. I loved it. I mean, as tough as it is, it's like a drug you can't get rid of. It's obsessive. You know what I mean? It's an amazing sport.
And obviously you train now. Do you still get the itch to get in?
Nah, them days are long gone now. The first year was really, really tough. I had a lot of. I was a little bit depressed, you know what I mean, when all of a sudden you've been boxing all your life since a little kid, and then at 28 years old it all stopped. And but luckily I went straight into the business side of things. I had my trainer's license, managing and then promoting. So I've been at it full steam really from the day I packed up.
So there's not a YouTuber that you fancy getting in with then, Carl?
No, I'm not into all that.
That's
into all that. If they pay me the right money, you never know. But no, I'm happy what I'm doing now. It's a tough game. It's a very, very tough game.
Yeah. What do you reckon about the YouTubers jumping in?
Yeah, I don't like it myself. I think it's mockery of the sport. You know what I mean? It's just mugging the game off, really. Anybody thinks can get in the ring and be a professional boxer. But listen, we can all have a go at your own level. But there's levels to the game, as you know, and when you start stepping up, that's when they'll find out what professional boxing is all about. But at the minute, with them fighting between themselves, they're getting away with it, and it's just mugging the game off, and they're making millions out of the sport, really. But listen, it's up to them, and it's fair play. If they're getting the coverage and promoters are willing to put them on and make the matches, then they can crack on. But I don't agree to it.
Fair enough.
Do you think it's a bit disappointing these really big promoters do this though?
They just know the thing is, it's getting the viewers in it. I mean, they can put like a 4-round fight on the undercard of a big bill, and the 4-round fight with two YouTubers would get more views than what the actual main event was. It's ridiculous. And they know they're going to draw the numbers in, and they're going to get the pay-per-view figures through that. So they're going to keep doing it, aren't they, as long as they're getting away with it and people are tuning in to watch it.
Yeah, I suppose, Carl, putting your promotion at on, you can see, like you said, you explained why you can see why it happens because of the click rate, etc. So I think it's here to stay now, Carl, don't you? To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's the way forward, isn't it? But I don't agree to it. Like I say, I mean, somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, these YouTubers are right fighting between themselves, but if they stepped up and fought a top level fight, they would get hurt, and a lot of people know that.
Yeah, and that's not good for the boxing image as a sport, is it? Really, if we're honest.
No.
So coming on to your boxing career then, Carl. Great career, by the way. Which fight was your most toughest fight?
It's hard to say, really. I mean, I had some tough ones coming through at the start of my career, but on paper, you'd have to look at obviously Gomez, Alex Arthur, and Carl Johansson as my three toughest fights and toughest opposition. I mean, there was all world class. There's all world class operators. They won a version of the world title. I know Gomez and Arthur did. I mean, Johansson fell a little bit short, but he was very, very good on his day, Arthur. Johansson, sorry. There was all good fighters, great fighters, and it's an honour to share the ring with them, to be honest. And looking back now and sat here, I can say I've been in the ring with them sort of fighters. It's great for me.
Brilliant, brilliant. Who had the most power, Carl?
I think natural power, probably Carl Johansson. I mean, on paper, Gomez is the only person that's ever knocked me out, both amateur and pro. But I was in that fight. I just got caught with another left hook on the top of the head and just scrambled my senses. And my mind was telling me to get up, but my body won't let me, as they say.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience. I learned a lot from that fight. It was a little bit early for me, really, going in with someone like Gomez. I mean, ability-wise, I think I was up there with him. But I just think the occasion, the pressure, the first live fight on Sky TV, it was for the British title, WBO Intercontinental title, top of the bill live on Sky Sports, all the media around it, the press conferences. I was never used to it. I'd come from like the small hall scene with no TV, not a lot of coverage, to a massive platform like that. And I think it mentally drained me and took a lot out of me. But I learned a lot from it, and I went on to box Arthur again for the British and then put up a very, very good performance in probably my biggest high-profile fight. I mean, 11,000 people live on Sky Sports at the Telewest Arena. It was chief support to Joe Calzaghe and Ricky Hatton was both top of the bill. So fantastic for me, really, very prestigious. And Arthur went on to do very well. I mean, him and Gomez had one of the fights of the century for the British title. I mean, we talked about for years. I mean, Arthur was a big favourite. Gomez went down there as a big underdog and upset the apple cart. But so it's been some great times. It was a tough division as well when I was boxing at super featherweight. It was red hot division, some very, very good fighters, and it'd been interesting to see how they've done in today's boxing at super featherweight.
Yeah, I mean, you fought at some very good stadiums, didn't you? Wembley, you know. You had some big fights, didn't you? You're a great asset to Nottingham, Carl. You had a great career, so yeah.
Yeah, I won the WBF World Title at Nottingham Ice Arena.
Yeah,
that was when Carl Fox was just coming through. Mick Hennessy was promoting on BBC One, and then I boxed at Wembley Arena. Lost my world title to Carl Johansson. Obviously, back to the Alex Arthur fight, Telewest Arena. And then one of my highlights really was a great achievement was being the first ever professional boxer to box in Gibraltar. That was a big thing. Putting a show on there. They'd never had professional boxing there before. And a couple of weeks ago, I passed the torch on to Dillian White and Povetkin. So I was really proud of that.
Yeah. We're actually talking about that. We saw you were sat in the corner for Nick Webb, weren't you?
Yeah, I did Nick Webb's hands and did his cuts, but I was there really to look after Kane Baker. Kane Baker was the first live fight on Facebook. Unfortunately, it wasn't his night. He boxed a very good fighter in Youssef Kamari, who, to be honest with you, was a lot better than I expected from what I'd seen in the past of him. I fancied Kane to do a job on him, but he turned up and he boxed very, very well, Youssef. I mean, so I was looking after him. I mean, Errol Johnson, his trainer, and Paul Mann, they couldn't make it because they was busy that night on the BT Sports Show with Lennox Clark, Danny Ball, and Zach Parker. So he asked me if I'd go over and look after Kane, and I was really pleased to do it. I mean, it was nice to get back in Gibraltar, and we actually stopped on the Sunborn yacht where I got married as well. So it was a great story.
Can't be bad, can it, Carl? Can't be bad.
Oh, so everyone stayed on that yacht then?
Yeah, we Max remind the old yacht out. because obviously it was a bubble. We couldn't break the bubble. We had to stay in the yacht. We weren't allowed off it apart from getting transported to the press conferences, to the weigh-in and to the venue. So we wasn't allowed to go around Gibraltar, which was a shame because I had a lot of friends ringing me. So I've got a lot of friends in Gibraltar from over the years. Was ringing me wanting to meet up, but I wasn't allowed off the yacht. So it was just nice to be there and back there. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So you've done a couple of these bubbles now, haven't you? So
I've done 4 now. Did a couple with Dex Spellman. Obviously, he boxed Lyndon Arthur and Anthony R on big fights, top of the bill. And obviously, I did top of the bill for David Avanesian when he beat Josh Kelly. And then obviously, I've just done the one with Kane Baker. So I've done 2 matchroom ones and 2 Frank Warren bubbles. So yeah, been good. I've had a few lads on MTK shows and on the undercards, my sort of like away fighters. So I've been quite lucky, really.
How do you get them mentally ready, Carl, the boxers, for no crowd? Because obviously a lot of boxers feed off the energy, don't they? And I'd imagine it's quite a sterile environment, is it?
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, obviously when you're watching it on TV, the commentators are talking, so you don't really notice there's not a lot of crowd. But when you're actually in there, you can only hear the corners shouting. And at the end of the fight, you could hear a pin drop. I mean, when we went back to after David Avanesian's win, we went and had the interviews, and I stood there, and it was absolutely silent. It was unbelievable. We could hear a pin drop. So yeah, it's a lot different. You have to prepare your lads a little bit different. I was turning the music off in the gym, having it silent while they were sparring, and just getting used to that sort of environment. But you know, I mean, I think when you're in the ring, you can block out the crowd anyway. You don't really hear the crowd, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's a lot different. Yeah, definitely different behind closed doors.
Just coming on to Evanesian, you've got on record as saying he's an elite fighter within your camp. How good is he? How good is he, Carl?
Yeah, Dave is the best fighter I've ever had as a trainer. Obviously as a manager as well, but I don't manage David. Neil Marsh does. But yeah, he's a very, very good fighter. He's an elite fighter. He's world class, and he's proven that now. He's won 4, defended his European title 4 times. Now all stoppages. Obviously, he's had 2 first-round stoppages, a 6th-round stoppage, and a 9th-round stoppage to win the title. So he's on a roll now. He deserves a world title fight. Let's hope that Matchroom, who's promoting him now, Eddie Hearn, can get together with Neil, his manager, and get him a big fight. I know they've been dropping a lot of names to us lately, but the right one's not really tick the boxes for me and David. We don't want these up-and-coming prospects now, 22-0. We want like a Sean Porter or a Terence Crawford or a Pacquiao or them sort of fighters, because listen, on David's day, he's good enough to beat any of them. I'm telling you, he's very, very good. And as we've seen with Josh Kelly the other couple of weeks ago, he finds a way all the time, and he had Kelly's number.
Was that frustrating to you? Because looking from the outside, it was as though he was being overlooked by Kelly's team. And
but
a bit written off, not just by Kelly though, but by Matchroom as well.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it because I honestly think that I don't think there's been any trainer that could have predicted a fight better than what I did.
Oh.
I said it from day one. There's been all these so-called elite trainers and that, but I have a little chuckle to myself because when I sit back and look at how I predicted that fight, how it was going to go, it was like as if Mystic Meg was looking down on me, because it was just like everything I said happened. And I knew Kelly would have his moments early. I knew he'd give David trouble, but I've seen it time and time again. A lot of these top boys give David trouble, these boxers, these smart top amateurs with good pedigree, but they can only keep him off a certain length of time. And to be honest with you, he got to him a little bit earlier than he expected. He crumbled quite quick once David got a grip of him. I mean, in the 5th round, he started to get hold of him, and then in the 6th round, he went quite quick. But if you look at the pressure David was putting on him throughout the fight, it was making him work, keeping him out of his comfort zone, and that was the plan. Even when he wasn't winning the round, just make Josh Kelly work, take him out of his comfort zone. When he wants to rest, don't let him rest. Just stay on his chest, use your footwork, push him back, and it worked a treat. But then, obviously, Adam Booth looked at him, realised that Kelly wasn't winning, doing what he was doing, so he tried getting Kelly to have a fight with David and sit on him a bit, and that was his undoing, because once that happened, he closed the gap, and David was hitting him so that was the start of the end, really, for Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, that fight got postponed quite a few times, Carl, didn't it? Wasn't it 2018 you're looking to first get in the ring with Josh Keller?
Yeah, it should have happened December 2018. As we know, Kelly pulled out on the day, saying he was ill. We'll never know the truth, but that's what they're saying. So you've got to respect it. Yeah. And then it was meant to have happened a few months later, but for one reason or another, it never happened. And then when it finally did get set again, COVID struck in March, I think, 2020. And then it was meant to happen again January 21. That never happened. For COVID again, the board, the controller, out of all fights, stopped professional boxing in January, which was a sickness because David was ready to go. And then we finally got it on, I think, February the 26th, just gone. So, yeah. It was a long time coming.
How tough's that to get a fighter back up when he's ready, when he's sharp, when he's at his peak? How tough is it to get him back up for that again once he's been let down?
Yeah, it's very, very tough. I mean, we thought that was never going to happen. We lost a bit of art. And then there was dropping a few names around us. And then was thinking that Kelly wanted a warm-up and then David wanted a warm-up, but we agreed that none of them had a warm-up and we're just going to get the fight on. But all in all, we did 26 weeks of training for that one person with a postponement. It's a lot of training, a lot of time and effort. And you've got to remember that David lives in Russia. So that's 26 weeks away from his family, which was very, very tough. I mean, I used to hate being away from my family when I was boxing, and I was never away like David for weeks on end. I was only away for the odd week or two, and I don't like it. So you've got to be mentally tough, and you're a different breed when you can do that. You know what I mean? And David's very, very mentally tough and mentally strong, which was the asset in that fight for me as well. I mean, at the weigh-in when Kelly was banging his chest, jumping about, using all that nervous energy, I was just rubbing it in with him, saying, and still, winding him up, and he was jumping about, and I was thinking, keep going, keep going. And David come off the scales, that guy crazy, why he this, why he that, you know what I mean? But we had it off to a T, really. If anything, nothing could have gone better, to be honest with you.
Well, you've clearly got a great relationship, haven't you? You know, you can see that when you're in amongst each other's company. So
yeah. The celebration at the end of the fight as well shows just how tight you are.
Yeah. He knocked me out off and took my hair out of place, didn't he? So that was a bit of a signal for the interview. But like you say, there was a lot of emotion in that fight. I mean, the media attention around it. I mean, in the bubble that week, we got down there on the Tuesday, we was non-stop doing interviews. And it honestly, after the weigh-in on the Friday, I was just mentally drained. And the lads was messaging me, coming down for some food. And honestly, I couldn't get off my bed. I was so mentally drained from all the media and all the coverage. And it just tired me out. And I just had to get myself ready and get refreshed for the big night. And you don't realise what all that press and media and the publicity around that fight was massive. You know what I mean? It was massive. I mean, I've been in some big fights with David, but a lot of bigger fights, to be honest with you. But media-wise and the attention, nothing like that. I mean, I can't see me ever going for anything like that again.
You know, talking of the bubble, you can't really get away from it, can you?
No. You're all everywhere you go.
You're all passing each other in the corridors. How does that work? Because I know there was such a tension between the two camps. And, you know, you can just from the press conferences, just from chatting that was going on, and there was obviously a lot of rumours that a few things happened behind closed doors as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you stay focused in a situation like that?
Yeah, it was difficult because obviously we was all eating in the same place and the same times. It was like set times for the food, breakfast, dinner, and tea. And obviously you had to book your time slots for the gym. And like we only had floor 6 and for the rooms, and floor 3 was where the restaurant was. This was at Wembley at the Hilton Hotel. And then on the floor 3 you had your restaurant, you had the media room, you had the gym, you had the radio room, you had everything, the weigh-in. It was all in one place. So, like you say, it was hard not seeing them, and we saw them regular. I mean, I think the only time we didn't see each other was from after the weigh-in till we got to the fight, to be honest, because I think once you've had the weigh-in, you do your own thing, you're in your room, you keep a low profile, you get your food sent to you, and that's how it was. But it is difficult, yeah.
Adam Booth was quite gracious in defeat, I understand, Carl. Wanted a few text messages exchanged after the fight. I heard he congratulated you on the win, didn't it? So all well that ends well.
Yeah, he sent a nice message out on Twitter, which was good. I mean, there was a lot of animosity with what happened. You got to remember that we lost a lot of money, in that fight from the pullouts with the training camp, and we never got paid anywhere near what we should have done for the first pullout, and that was on the day where, by rights, we could have got paid. But Neil was very generous with Matchroom, accepted what he did, and hoping that they would look after him in the future. And we've got a good contract with Matchroom now. We've got one fight left, and obviously if he wins that, he'll get extended if we want it to. So yeah, it was tough. I mean, and fair play to Adam. He took the defeat well. I mean, listen, I've said before there was a lot of pressure on that fight, and I said a lot of things as well. And I could have ended up with egg on my face, but luckily it was my night. And but I'll be honest with you, I'd have been sick as a pig if we'd have got beat. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. What do you think happens with Josh Kelly now, Carl? What would you do with him? Stepping up?
He's definitely got to move up a weight. I mean, David got in the ring a stone heavier than the day before, and Kelly still looked 2 weight divisions bigger than him. He's got massive legs. If you look at the size of Kelly's legs to David, I mean, I watched it back again yesterday. I can't believe the size of his legs.
Kelly looked huge, didn't he?
Yeah, and if David was 11-7 getting in that ring, Kelly must have been 12-4 easy. And that is too much weight to be putting on. You're in the wrong weight division. If you're putting more than a stone on, you're rehydrating too much and you're putting way too much excess weight on, and you're in the wrong weight category. So I think he's got to move up in weight. Has he got the power to go up in the weights? I don't know. He don't look like he's a puncher, but he might be losing power by keeping his weight down. You know what I mean? I've done all the weights myself, and I know you lose a lot of energy and strength after a couple of rounds. He looked quite physically strong early doors. I mean, he caught David with a cracking left hook in the second round. I think he looked a lot worse than the shot was, but he did stumble David. So, yeah, it might be the weight, might be the fact why he's not punching hard. I don't know, but he's definitely losing some strength and power down at Walter by balling down so much. So he's got to regroup. He's got to look at the situation. He's definitely got the skills and ability, but he's been found out, and I think David's opened the doors now for her to beat him. So a bit like I did with Alex Arthur, where Gomez beat him with a left hook, but now I'm not taking no credit for that. Yeah, so we'll see. But this is a great lad. I mean, I know there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff said, but you have a lot of respect in boxing. It's a tough game. And we could both come out there safe and shook hands, and we're all friends again.
So, Carl, lastly, I'm conscious of time. Let's move on to you and moving forward then, because you've got a fair old size stable there in Newark, haven't you? So, what's the plan for your shows moving forward? Now we're starting to get a little bit of news about lockdown, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's good news, but like I've said, until the British Boxing Board of Control stop the testing for everybody involved in the show and the hotel bubbles, then it's just not going to be possible for me to promote. Once everybody's been vaccinated, I presume that's when the testing will stop. But until then, I won't be able to go. I'm hoping September. I've got my heart set on September. I'm going to put a big show on at the Morningside Arena in Leicester. I've got a lot of East Midland prospects I want to build up, and that's the perfect venue, really. So that's what my plans are. But I can't really make any plans or decisions until we know when this testing is going to stop, because for a little 6-7 fight show, I've worked it out, it's going to cost £18,000 just for the testing and the hotels. And then you've got your fighters to pay, your ring eye, your MC, your paramedics, your doctors, your ring girls, your referees, your time kit. It's never ending. So you're looking at the access. You're probably looking at around £60,000 to put a 6-7 fight small old show on with the testing.
Andy can afford
it's tough
that.
enough making. It's tough enough.
Andy can afford that. He'll sub you that.
It's tough enough getting over the line when you've got a full crowd and no testing. So it's definitely something that I won't be doing until this testing stops.
Big outlay, mate, innit? Big outlay.
It's a big gamble, just to bring your fighters through. It's hard, but you've got to do it to get your fighters into manager positions and push on for titles, and then that's how you get them in with the big promoters if they're not good enough to sign with them to start with.
Just talking about promoters and is it difficult if you've had a fighter from walking in as a kid and you've built a relationship up with them, for a big promoter to come along and snatch him from underneath your nose just for £1 note? Is that hard to take as a trainer?
Is there any loyalty, Carl?
Well, the thing is, you've got to look at it like this. I mean, I'm a trainer and manager as well, which I'm fortunate enough to be. So I am a promoter, but I only promote smaller shows and build kids up as far as it can go. I mean, a success story for me is taking Sam Bowen from his pro debut all the way to British champion with no TV. I mean, that's unheard of, really. And obviously I had Baz Jordan from Jordan Rose Servicing who backed me with Sam. So I was fortunate. But that's a good success story, really. But then you look at it where I've got into British champion. Now, I couldn't take him any further unless I was willing to chuck a load of money at it that I was never going to get back. So the next step forward was to get him in with a big promoter. So Frank Warren come along, gave Sam a 3-year contract, and it was all going great. He had a few big fights on BT Sport. He was boxing out of on Leicester Morningside Arena in his own town, and then he boxed in Birmingham. But when he lost his British title on split decision, the sad thing is we've not had one call from Frank Warren since to see how he is or offer him any fights. I mean, he's been doing all these behind closed doors shows, and with all due respect, been putting a lot of kids on who's nowhere near in Sam's level. And it could have been nice with him to say, look, we'll bring Sam back behind closed doors, get him an 8-rounder up at his new weight at lightweight. He's back in the mix. He'll be top 2 or 3 in Britain at lightweight. I mean, you got to remember he stopped Max Hughes in 7 rounds to win the British super featherweight title. Max Hughes has gone on to win the British lightweight title. And I know for a fact that the same would happen if Sam went up to lightweight. So it's disappointing, really, but that's how it happens. But back to your question about having a kid from the off. I mean, if I had a kid from the off and he was good enough to sign with a big promoter, then it'll be better for me, really, to be honest, because I could still manage and train him, but just not promote him. But at least I know he's getting regular money beyond set wage per round, and I could get my money back through managing him and training him that way. So I haven't got a gamble to do with him like you have with other kids that I'm promoting. So it would benefit me with getting a boy with a big promoter from the start, to be honest, especially if he's not a big ticket salary, because I'd be losing a lot of money on him.
So what's the favourite part of the gig then, Carl? Is it training them, managing them? It's definitely not promoting them, because I can sense that.
Well, it's a different kind of buzz. I mean, when you started from the bottom like me, I had nothing, and I've worked my way up, and you're promoting these shows, and you can sit down and you look at it and you've sold out a 2,000 venue. You know what I mean? You get a lot of satisfaction from it. You're thinking, wow, have I done this? Sold a venue out. You know what I mean? With all fires, it's not really known. It's a right buzz. the training side of it is another great buzz when you have a big win like you do with David Avanesian and get a lot of credit and get your tactics right. But it is hard graft training fighters. I'm not going to lie. I'm in the gym all the time. It's hard work. I mean, the management, when you're promoting kids that you manage as well, it's a lot easier. And the kids that I don't promote are probably the kids that go on the road. So it's easy enough to get them the right fights. You've got to make sure you're getting the right money, get them looked after, they're not going to get hurt. Yeah, I mean, it's a great buzz when you get a good fight and you get someone like David and he has a big win on Sky Sports. I mean, it's massive and it's high profile, and you're not going to get that with any other category that you're in.
Well, Carl, your stock is definitely rising, fella, isn't it? You know,
we keep trying, mate. We keep trying.
Goes without saying. So, Carl, really appreciate that half an hour.
No
okay, good luck with everything moving forward. Keep in touch.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, anything you want to add, Andy, before I finish it?
No. It's fantastic having you on, Carl. Thanks very much, mate.
No, I really appreciate having me on, lads, and good luck with the channel. I hope it presses on and you get as many viewers as I film do.
Yeah. Just like you're aiming for Matchroom, we're aiming for IFL. There you go. I don't want to
put them
anymore. No, Carl, take care. I'll be in touch. Cheers.
Nice one, lads. Take care.